We ignored the warning. It followed us home. The divorce hit me hard. A year later, I was still picking up the pieces, mostly alone. That is why I was surprised when Liam called, suggesting a hiking trip. Chloe was in too. Just like old times, he said. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me knew I needed this, needed them. The Poconos in October are beautiful, but the chill in the air was a constant reminder that winter was coming. The town we drove through felt off. Quiet, too quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. We stopped at the general store for supplies. It was the kind of place where dust motes danced in the single shaft of sunlight, illuminating shelves crammed with things that looked like they had not moved in decades. Behind the counter was an old man, Fitzwilliam. Skin like cracked leather, eyes that seemed to see right through you. Liam, being Liam, immediately started chatting him up. Hiking trip, eh? Headed to the old logging camp? Fitzwilliam's voice was raspy, like dry leaves crunching underfoot. Liam grinned. That is the plan. Heard it has got some great trails. Fitzwilliam's eyes narrowed. Stay away from that place. It is cursed. Chloe scoffed, a small sound. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Cursed? What are you talking about? Liam asked, amused. Something lives there, Fitzwilliam said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Something old. It feeds on fear, on pain. People go in, they do not come out the same. Some do not come out at all. He went on, talking about nightmares, disappearances, a presence in the woods. Liam just laughed it off, calling him a crazy local. Chloe, usually the most rational of us, looked genuinely unnerved. Me? I wanted to believe it was just an old man's tale, but a shiver ran down my spine. We ignored him. Liam was insistent, and I did not have the energy to argue. Besides, a part of me, the stupid, stubborn part, wanted to prove Fitzwilliam wrong. The trail started out pleasant enough. Sunlight dappled through the trees, the air smelled of pine and damp earth. We talked, mostly about trivial things, catching up on each other's lives. But as we got closer to the logging camp, the atmosphere changed. The birds stopped singing. The wind died down. The forest became silent. Then we started seeing them, strange symbols carved into the trees, crude, unsettling shapes that looked vaguely familiar, like something from a nightmare. The logging camp itself was worse than I imagined, a cluster of rotting buildings slowly being swallowed by the forest. The air hung heavy with a sense of decay and something else, something malevolent. I do not like this, Chloe said, her voice barely a whisper. Let us go back. Liam, of course, would not hear it. Come on, do not be such a scaredy cat. It is just an old logging camp. He pushed open the door of one of the cabins. The stench of mildew and rot hit us like a physical blow. Inside it was dark and damp, filled with broken furniture, rusted tools and cobwebs thicker than cotton. The walls were covered in those same symbols, scratched into the wood with something sharp. It was unsettling, deeply unsettling. I wanted to get out of there. Liam naturally started poking around. He found a small wooden doll tucked away in a corner, intricately carved with strange blank eyes. Cool, he said, pocketing it. Souvenir. Chloe and I exchanged uneasy glances. The hike back was a nightmare. We kept hearing things, faint whispers rustling in the undergrowth, shadows flickered at the edge of our vision. I felt like we were being watched, stalked by something unseen. Back at the rental cabin, things got worse. That night, I had the first nightmare. I was back at the logging camp, surrounded by those symbols. The wooden doll was there, its eyes boring into me. A dark figure emerged from the shadows, its face hidden, its presence radiating pure evil. I woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, the image seared into my mind. The next morning, Chloe told us she had heard strange noises during the night, scratching at the walls, whispers in the dark. She said she had seen something move in the corner of her eye, but when she looked, there was nothing there. Liam, predictably, dismissed it all. You guys are just spooked. It is your imaginations running wild. But even he looked a little pale. We tried to leave, but the car would not start. The engine just coughed and sputtered. We were stranded. Another night in that cabin. Another night of nightmares. They were getting more vivid, more intense. I started seeing the symbols even when I was awake, flickering at the edge of my vision. Chloe started researching the logging camp. She found old newspaper articles about unexplained deaths and disappearances, rumors of occult practices. There was even an article about a similar warning given by an old man 50 years ago. Liam, his bravado finally cracking, became increasingly paranoid. He kept seeing things out of the corner of his eye, hearing whispers when no one was speaking. He said he felt like something was pressing down on him, suffocating him. My own mental state was deteriorating rapidly. I lost my appetite, became withdrawn. The nightmares were relentless, bleeding into my waking hours. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Then came the night I woke up to find Liam standing over me, his eyes wide and vacant, clutching the wooden doll. He was chanting in a language I did not understand, a guttural, unsettling sound that sent shivers down my spine. Chloe tried to take the doll from him, but he lashed out, knocking her to the ground. He grabbed his head and screamed, and then bolted out of the cabin into the night, still clutching the doll. We called the police. A young deputy, Hayes, showed up. He listened to our story with a mixture of disbelief and amusement. "Sounds like you kids had a little too much fun in the woods," he said, shaking his head. "Probably just stress and exhaustion." He reluctantly agreed to look for Liam, but it was clear he didn't take us seriously. Chloe and I went looking for him ourselves. We followed the trail back towards town. Finally, we found him. At my house. He was in the basement, surrounded by those symbols, which he had somehow scrawled all over the concrete floor. He was still chanting, his eyes glazed over, his body swaying rhythmically. He held the wooden doll up high. Then it happened. The air grew cold, the lights flickered. A darkness began to coalesce in the center of the room, a swirling vortex of shadow and fear. It took on a vaguely humanoid shape, its form shifting and indistinct, but its presence was palpable, radiating pure, unadulterated evil. Chloe screamed. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a primal urge to protect her, to protect Liam, even though he was clearly lost. "Liam," I yelled, trying to snap him out of it. "Liam, stop. What are you doing?" He didn't respond. He just kept chanting, his voice rising in a crescendo. The entity lunged forward, its shadowy tendrils reaching for us. I grabbed a crowbar from the workbench and swung it with all my might at the wooden doll. It shattered into pieces. The entity shrieked, a sound that tore through my soul. Its form flickered, sputtered, and then dissipated, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. Liam collapsed to the floor, unconscious. The police arrived, sirens blaring. They took Liam into custody. He was incoherent, unresponsive. They had to restrain him. Chloe and I were treated for our injuries and questioned by Detective Reed, a grizzled veteran who looked like he'd seen it all. He was initially skeptical, but as he heard our story and saw the symbols in my basement, a flicker of something akin to fear crossed his face. Liam was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. The doctors ran every test imaginable, but they couldn't find anything physically wrong with him. He remained catatonic, trapped in some kind of waking nightmare. Chloe and I tried to go back to our lives, but it was impossible. The logging camp, the symbols, the entity, it was all burned into our memories. I couldn't sleep without medication. Chloe suffered from anxiety attacks. A few weeks later, my sister Sarah came to visit. She was a budding historian with a weird fascination for local folklore. "I heard about what happened, Mark," she said, her voice filled with concern. "I've been doing some research. There are similar stories, legends about a presence in those woods. It's always tied to the logging camp." She told me she had spoken to a friend of hers, Dr. Emily Carter, who specializes in sleep disorders. Sarah had told her my story, and she recommended that I do a sleep study. She thinks it might help us understand what is going on a bit more. It might not be a cure, but at least a step. I didn't want to, but I knew she was right. I was desperate for answers. So I went to the sleep clinic. I was hooked up to a machine that monitored my brain waves, my heart rate, my eye movements. I tried to relax, but my mind was racing. I drifted off to sleep. Then I was back at the logging camp. The symbols, the darkness, the wooden doll, it was all there, vivid and terrifying. I relived the entire experience, from the moment we ignored Fitzwilliam's warning to the confrontation in my basement. The doctors monitored my brain activity. They were shocked by what they saw. My brain waves were spiking, fluctuating wildly. At one point, they said it looked like I was experiencing a seizure. I woke up in a cold sweat, gasping for air. The lights in the room were dim. A technician was watching me, his face pale. "Are you okay, Mark?" he asked. I nodded, trying to catch my breath. "What happened?" "You had an intense night," he said carefully. "Your brain activity was unusual. He pointed to a monitor displaying my brainwaves. They formed a complex, intricate pattern, and that's when I saw it. The pattern was familiar. Too familiar. It was the same as one of the symbols carved into the trees near the logging camp. The lights flickered again. I heard a faint whisper in my ear, barely audible, but undeniably there. You brought me home. I stared into the darkness, my face filled with terror. Was it really gone? Or had it simply found a new way to manifest, to reside within me? The monitor flatlined.